Ah!
That was
with
terrifying.
Yeah, with that, welcome to this month's episode of the 800s. I am your humble and frankly quite scared co-host, Alex, and you just heard from my fellow co-host and parent 3D printed dinosaur enthusiast, Adam.
It's just a little dinosaur toy.
Oh,
The regular. I went and stole it from my son. So.
all right, so my thief of a co-host. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome to this month's episode of the hundreds, and also thank you, as always, to our main man behind the scenes, Alan, for making this all happen. Wouldn't be here without him. So with that, why don't we just dive into the plug so we can start talking about this book?
Yeah, sure thing. If you joined us for our quick pre-show, you heard some music. That was Fearless First by Incompetech. If you'd like to check out more of their awesome tunes, head over to filmmusic.io to learn more. That Film Music not only has Incompetech music, but a whole bunch of different creators who are just trying to make it in this big world. So if you want to support the small artists, check them out. Other than that, we post all of our videos on YouTube. You should check that out. Links below the video. We're DM's Table on YouTube. If you would like a 1 month free subscription to Audible, I suggest you head over to dmstable.com/audible to get a 1 month free subscription and give us props for making you head that way. We pay for this show two primary ways. Etsy, dmstable.com/Etsy. We sell nerd memorabilia, some digital art, other cool things. Check that out. And Patreon. The link is below the video. We're the DM's Table on Patreon as well. $2 is all it takes, and you'll get access to the book vote, which determines which book we do every month. Other than that, you can head over to dmstable.com for general information about the show and what we do. And you can hit us up on our socials. Facebook is at the DM's Table, and X is at DM's Table. Other than that,
I'll never accept that.
The website previously known as Twitter, now known as X.
The website formerly known as Twitter. That's what it will forever be, just like Prince and the artist formerly known as Prince.
Alex, why don't you take it over?
Well, don't mind if I do. All right, so this week on the 800s, we'll be discussing Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. In this science fiction thriller, humanity has begun to tap into the potential of DNA and genetic engineering. However, the question of should we has been superseded by the unstoppable march of scientific progress, all of which culminates in the resurrection of creatures that have not walked the planet in over 65 million years. Dinosaurs. Now available for your viewing and their dining pleasure. In the words of John Hammond, welcome to Jurassic Park.
Oh, man, that got me. They're dining. Oh, God. Oh, man. All right, so this is a discussion show. If this is your first time joining us, I'll give you a quick rundown of how we work. Essentially, Alex and I will pose a topic or question for discussion. He and I will give our opinions on that topic, while you in chat have the opportunity to post what you think in the chat. At any time, if you have something you would like to discuss, a question or a topic, feel free to throw that in chat, and hopefully we will grab it and throw it out there for the world to discuss. Yes, that's right, the world, because our show is huge and watched by people.
And watched by eyeballs.
And watched by more than one person.
Also, we're trying to create a fun and supportive community over here at DM's table, where people can feel free to express themselves and delve into all of the things that they love and are passionate about. And also, this is a channel that does go into adult topics and stuff, so bring kids around at your own discretion. We'll try not to swear too much, but fuck if it doesn't happen every once in a while. But for the most part, we try to live by a creed here at DM's table and the 800s, and that's be nice or fuck off. I wanted to do with a dinosaur roar, but I just didn't have it in me. Play that T-Rex. Fuck off!
All right, with that, let's jump right into the show and talk about first impressions.
Oh, yeah. Alrighty then. So, honestly, like, I'm trying not to do too much of this with any book that has been made a movie, but when you have a book that has been wildly outstripped by a movie that is considered to be one of the best films ever made, in particular in the science fiction thriller genre, it's hard not to make comparisons, especially when it was a formative part of my youth. So I instinctually found myself comparing it to the movie, but I actually found myself liking the book for different reasons. Obviously, the start is way slower. There's a lot more background into the ethics and the science and the buildup leading to getting to Jurassic Park itself. And I generally found it to be interesting and fun to read in a very different way from the movie. And so I ended up settling into like a very different mindset, and it kind of sets a tone right from the beginning of we're going to make this is going to be a wild ride, but we're going to make you think about it. So that was my first impression. How about yours, Adam?
Yeah, as a story that we've all probably experienced before in the form of the movie, kind of expected that same quick jump to the island, and we didn't get that. It was kind of like this slow, mysterious build. It's kind of given away a little bit by the title of the book, what's going on here, but like I thought it was really well done, how it was built so slowly, like the anticipation, what's going to happen, what's this leading to, what could this possibly be about. I think it really set the mood for that oh fuck what's around the next corner kind of theme we have throughout the entire book here. So it was very interesting and makes you want to know what's on the next page.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's that kind of like grab you by the cuff, like by the collar right from the beginning that you really kind of, I think, lends itself to a certain kind of thriller, like V.S. Drake said. Also, they mentioned that the characters are really well written and adds a ton of lore to like the very beginning and also to the whole world of Jurassic Park. So with that in mind, I actually wanted to ask the question, what was your favorite, or what was the most what is the thing that stood out the most to you as an added bit of lore to like this Jurassic Park world that was in the book? So
something that was in the book that was missed in the movie, lore-wise.
Or it could be a bit of lore. Like, what bit of lore specifically? I mean, I know I said added, but it could be any bit of lore that stood out to you in the book specifically, is what I'm saying. Like,
okay. So something I think the book did 1,000% better than the movie that is lore related is the chaos theory stuff.
Yeah.
That gets talked about, where in the movie it's just like this big joke where the guy's like, "Oh, you guys are idiots! Ha ha ha! Oh, look at me! I'm gonna hit on this chick over here." And in the book, he's like, "Oh, well, if A plus C, then you're screwed." I think it was really much better, more well done, more logically thought out, more like, yeah, this shit's gonna go downhill fast because of A, B, and C.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of a feature of Michael Crichton's writing in general. I've read a few of his other books, and he does a really good job of taking scientific and like mathematical principles and delving into them in a way that is manageable, where you can see potential real world consequences to it. He takes them to extremes for sure, but you stole the one right out of my mind, which was the chaos theory bit, because I think the only thing that we get out of it directly from book to movie is the bit about the water droplet in the back of the hand. And you're like, I drop it in the same place and look, it went this way and not that way. Why does it do that? That sort of thing. But that was one tiny example that was like the explain like I'm five version of chaos theory. And, and it was really nice to like have it actually explained in a way that like I've looked into it before, and Crichton did a great job of taking chaos theory, which is incredibly complicated, and distilling it down into something to be actually respected, as opposed to just like, we're doing something crazy out here because we're the rock stars of the math world or whatever. No, yeah. It's actually a like, hey, complicated systems, especially don't always match up between macro and micro, and there needs to be something that fits them together, and that's chaos theory. Yeah. You know, and the examples that were given were very good, outside of just like Jurassic Park as a whole, but it also is just like, it was interesting to hear that like Ian Malcolm actually in the book got to have a look at this and like mathematically decide that this was going to be a failure beforehand. This was not an on the island issue. This was something he's just like, oh yeah, I did some math and like, you guys are fucked. Yeah. Oh man. So let's see what chat has to say about it.
Yeah, V.S. Drake says he loved the background of InGen, and it showed how they cut a ton of corners, and he mentioned chaos theory.
Yeah, the corner cutting I think was another good bit, because like some of it's just like, well, why didn't you just do X, Y, Z? And it made sense, because like I think that's the other bit of lore that I genuinely liked was, and this kind of goes to what V.S. Drake said way earlier, is that some of the characters are inherently different, so it makes more sense that corners were cut. Like the John Hammond in the movie is this like affable guy who just wants to make the kids happy, and that is a piece of him in the book. But in the book, the bit that gets added is he is, con man is the wrong word, but he is a salesman. He is not. He's purely a salesman, and he just wants he wants the end game. He doesn't necessarily care how he gets there. You know, what's the line that he says a lot more in the movie than the book, but in the book is we spared no expense. Yeah. Like, yes you did.
That's something I feel like was kind of pushed a little more in the movie than the book, is like that I'm going to do this no matter what you say kind of mentality. I feel like in the book they're there and they're analyzing. Hammond does get mad at them for picking it apart every little bit, but like,
well, I think it was more the like the entitlement of being like a rich salesperson. He was just like, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to bring them back for the sake of like science. I wanted to do it for profit, and you know, because like who wants to pay, like It's like he like the way that he talks about them is very condescending to the consumer. Is just like I don't. He's just like he wants them to be grateful for what he's providing. At what he's like, I didn't want to use gene sequence like genetic engineering to make drugs because you know you just put all that money into it, and it's like, well, they're not grateful enough that you've put all this money into it, and I'm extorting every dime that I can get out of it for your own health. Like that mentality is what underlies a lot of the corner cutting, as opposed to the bulldozer effect that happens in like the movie. So I thought that gave a depth of character to John Hammond that I don't think he had in the movie. And so like I think that lends itself to the lore.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, all the kids in the world will get to see them. Well, the rich kids anyway.
Yeah.
Rough. Oh yeah, and Storm. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That was a big difference between book and movie Hammond, though. Is like in the book, Hammond was like, "I want to make money. Like, fuck you, poor people. It's gonna cost you an arm and a leg to get to my island. We can charge whatever the fuck we want because everybody's gonna want to be here." And in the movie, he's like, "We've got to make it accessible to any kid."
Yeah, and it makes more sense for a movie for that to happen as well. Oh yeah, the want one to take home bit also, but I believe that was actually the other geneticist, the one who released the virus, like the rabies virus, on those people in South America. But like, yeah, that idea that like this is about commodifying it, like sort of a capitalist undertone, is throughout this, as opposed to something that was a bit more, I think, palatable to people who are paying money to see a movie. Don't want them questioning too much, right? VS Drake also says that they didn't seem to know as much about the dinosaurs than the ones who created him, than someone who created them. So yeah, there also was I think lore-wise, that was nice to see that there was a lot more uncertainty about how dinosaurs actually act.
Yeah.
Because in the movie, it's just like, this is a fact. We know this stuff. I'm like, how do you know? It was just bones. And in the book, they are very much so like, we don't know. It's just bones. We can only guess based on like context clues and what we know from current living animals, but like they could be any number of things. And I really appreciated that throughout this as well.
I think that was more heavily implied by inviting the archaeologists along.
Yeah.
Is that they were like, I don't know, we just found their DNA and popped it out and saw what happened.
Just a little boop.
How do you know what kind of DNA you have? Oh, we just made it. And then
and figured it out.
Then when we saw that it was a giant, vicious, meat-eating, 30-foot tall terror, we knew it was a T-Rex.
Oh, finally remembered Dodgson, who shows up in the movie as like basically a cameo, but in the book he is like that character who represents like, let's say, all intelligence, no whiz. Like he is the corporate espionage part of this also plays into that as well.
Yeah.
So do you have any questions for the group, Adam?
Yeah, so
is that a dinosaur sound clicking? Although what
calling out to the velociraptors real quick.
Yes, Stormy, the movie did emphasize that they were sterile and all same sex. That part was a part of it.
Yeah, they did that. They did that a little better in the book. They were like they shot radiation at their private parts and
Yeah,
made them all the same gender.
yeah, it was like a multi-step thing, but it's just like, yeah, if you got amphibian DNA. Anyways, what was your question?
So what's more terrifying? T-Rex, Velociraptor, or man?
To whom? Honestly, like, I think if I were like face to face with it, the Velociraptor, because it is like like it is that visceral fear of I am prey. This is an intelligent predator. But if we're talking existentially and like to the planet, probably people. Like, I mean, because at least with humans, there's a chance that they don't want to kill me. The velociraptors seem to want to just, do it to do it.
Yeah.
So
I gotta
oh,
say Velociraptor. The speed and pack tactics really nails it down.
pack tactics. We're not playing D&D. They don't get advantage on the roll. Actually, they do.
Yeah. That's how it worked.
But yeah, I think they did a good job of describing like the difference pretty well in the book that didn't need to be like seen, which I appreciated, because that was one of the things that, again, hard not to make the comparison, but when you have something visual that is as impactful as dinosaurs, I was wondering whether or not the reading about them would keep up, and I think for the most part, in a lot of ways, it does. You don't get the jump scares quite in the same way, but the description of the way that they move, the way that they communicate, and the uncertainty behind what their motives are, the fact that they stealth, the fact that they, do all these other things. There's these little notes of intelligence that you see throughout, and like, I'm not entirely sure on some of the descriptions of things like weight and size, because velociraptors are not as big in real life as Jurassic Park the movie made them seem, but they're still not like small. They're just like big dog as opposed to essentially human size. But still vicious, still a 6-inch claw on the end of the the end of the foot, like it is. But for now, then, let's go to V.S. Drake's question. How do you feel about the way that Michael wrote the characters?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
Before that, though,
Okay.
the Velociraptors are 5 to 7 feet long, with a mass around 30 to 50 pounds.
Yeah, and I think they said they were like 200 pounds in the book or something like that.
Yeah.
So, like, and they were like 6 feet tall, not long. So, I think that applies to, like, I think the thing that they used in the movie seems to also be what they were using in the book, and that's the Utah Raptor, which is basically just like the bigger cousin of the Velociraptor.
Yeah.
Velociraptor was a few million years after and had started to develop feathers. So, presumably.
Yeah. Anyway, on to V.S. Drake's question.
Yeah.
I feel like the characters felt a little more real in the book, especially compared to the movie. That gag the movie does with the kids and Dr. Grant and the other archaeologists being like, "Oh, you should have kids," and he's all like, "I don't want kids," and then the kids are all being adorable with him and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, you should have kids." Like, that just felt so ham-fisted. But in the book, he's like, he's like, "No, that's not I'm not. No kids. Nope. It's not something for me. Like, I'm gonna be a decent human being, but no thanks.
Yeah, I think that was nice. Like, I think Michael Crichton did a good job of creating characters that seemed a lot more, I think, realistic for people who are actually like experts in their field. Uh, they know the stages of how things work.
Yeah.
And they are willing, like the funding thing was not a fight. It was just like, oh, that's just kind of how things work. And he's like, yeah, I'd rather stay here, but it wasn't like you have to like twist my arm. It's just like I know I have to do it. And so some of the things felt a little more believable. I think even the kids felt more believable, honestly. Although they did fall into some tropes, which was probably one of my biggest criticisms of the book as a whole, is that the kids fell into some pretty stereotypical, like, older brother, younger sister, like older brother knows stuff, and younger sister is just annoying with
Yeah.
few redeemable qualities. And I was just like, yeah. Like, like they were funny, and I think it was a good. I think they were a good piece of levity in what could have been a real downer of a book from a certain point onwards. But
I liked the part where the security guy went to go investigate the two vehicles that were attacked by the T-Rex, and he finds the kid's watch, and he's all like, "Oh, this kid's super smart." And the other guy's like, "How do you know that?" And he's like, "Oh, because he left his watch behind."
Yeah, the being attached to the baseball glove thing, like a kid having like a comfort item or something that they're attached to, is a good. It was a good little note there, Stormy. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, and I do agree that they interacted appropriately. I just thought some stuff was a bit tropey, and I'm being a bit nitpicky because overall I enjoyed the book.
So, what do you think was the most unbelievable part of the book? Like, is there anything that stood out as like that doesn't seem like it would mesh with reality?
Wait, say that again. Sorry,
What was unbelievable about the book?
I mean, other than the actual creation of the dinosaurs themselves, because like,
Let's hand wave the creation. Yeah, that's an essential part of the book.
I think, and are we assuming that this is back in like the 80s when this is set?
Yeah.
As opposed to now? Okay, because like right now the biggest thing would be like there's no way that you do this and something doesn't get leaked, like well beforehand. The fact that like the dinosaurs wound up on land. I don't know that. I do think that considering that they set up the island the way that they did, even if they cut corners, you're in an island in the Pacific. If you don't have like, I don't know, it's hard to tell because again, this is a technology thing. Like these days, it probably wouldn't be an issue, but back then, you're talking top of the line computer systems and stuff are like less than what we have in our phones. So like it is a little hard to parse that out. So I think there are some things though that I was just like, you didn't predict a bad storm, or that like the animals might flock to a water source. Like a river. Like that seems a bit dumb to me because like every animal that we know of, and yeah, dinosaurs aren't necessarily the same, but like we all need water to survive. And I was just like, You don't have a single fucking camera along the river, my dude. Like,
Well, they didn't say they didn't have cameras on the river. They said they didn't have motion sensors on the river.
well, the motion sensors, but still dumb.
Yeah, for me, the big thing was like when Nedry did his theft, and he did like a whole, and they did like a whole system shutdown and shut the power off to everything. Like it feels like they were extremely insistent on a secondary system for everything. Like multiple times they were like, there's this and this to protect us. Like the no mating thing. We x-rayed their shit and they're all female. But to turn off the fence, all you had to do was hit a button.
I think the only thing that makes that potentially believable is that the person who did it was the one who set it all up. So coders leave backdoors and stuff all the time. And that was the part that I was just like, maybe. It's not the most believable part for the exact reasons you mentioned, but I can see it happening.
I feel like that's something, though, that they would have insisted on something like, you have to tell the code to shut it off and flip this giant lever on the wall. You know?
Yeah, that would make more sense, but then where's the suspense? But as I said, like I agree that is a lesser believable part for sure, but I can't say that it struck me as unbelievable personally, but I get it. VS Drake says, I can backdoor commands. I can say with full confidence, this is a viable thing.
Like I get the backdoor commands thing. Like that makes sense. But insisting that code is the one and only protection for the one thing that kept them all alive from the dinosaurs. Like,
yeah, and that might be on the park director because he was assuming that this is like he was treating it like a high-end zoo, and yeah, I think he wasn't used to maybe testing critical systems like VS Drake said in that way, because like, I mean, how many zoos do you know that are on an island in the Pacific and subject to that sort of thing? You know.
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
See, like I asked how many you knew, and it was 0 off the top of your dome. So
I don't know anything in the Pacific.
Yeah, so I get it being potentially a bit unbelievable, though, in general. All right, so I had a question moving on to a different topic. What did you find to be the most thrilling or scary part of the book?
Thrilling or scary?
Pardon me.
I think it was probably the scene with the sleeping T-Rex when they were getting in the boat.
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously the part where the T-Rex is swimming after them like a crocodile in the water. Like you could just feel that scene.
Once again, took the words right out of my mouth, man. That was the exact scene I was thinking of. I think the only thing that cut it was the little girl, like being loud, even though they told her to be quiet. I was just like, it'd be one thing if it was
can't swim.
It was just like, it was one of those moments like, I get she's a little kid, and this is the part that made them kind of like not the best written for me. Like, I know kids will just say stuff, especially if they don't believe stuff or if they're hungry or tired. But like when she's just like talking normal. I'm like, this isn't your first encounter with dinosaurs. You know that they like are scary, and you're not acting scared in the least. Like,
well,
yeah.
on the contrary, I think that's an action out of fear, where in her mind she goes, I need T-Rexes to not be able to swim because I'm terrified that he's going to swim after me. So in my mind, he can't swim.
Yeah, I'll have to trust you and B.S. Drake. I know you get your fathers, so like I'll have to take your word for it a little bit on that. But again, not unbelievable. Just like I was just like, come the hell on, it's right there. And
Oh, reptiles can swim, you idiot. No, not snakes. Yes, they can. That part was great.
It was, but again, like it lends itself to that humor aspect, which cuts the tension of, like you said, a very tense and thrilling scene. Like I remember legitimately like I was listening to the audiobook of this because I read the book after listening to the audiobook for the audiobook. I was like on my drive home and I was on the gear shift, like clenching it a little bit.
Yeah.
The other one that surprisingly got me also was the like the aviary scene. Like I was surprised at that a little bit because it felt a little goofy when they were talking about these tiny little things that like to dive bomb from the top of the cage, and
Yeah.
and then they go in and it's just like, something's going to go wrong, but the way it goes sideways is wild, and I could feel the chaos in it, that like uncertainty of what's going on, why it, the craziness of it, and that was more thriller than scary, for me.
Yeah.
But I really like that scene as well.
That was pretty good how they're like, well, I hope they're not on the river because then they'd end up in the aviary and ooh, that ain't gonna be good. All right, so we're in the aviary.
That's just classic writing right there.
Yeah, V.S. Drake brought up the Malcolm effect. Let's talk about that real quick.
So,
Malcolm effect.
I like how he created the Malcolm effect. And I'm like, dude, that's just the calm before the storm. Like, I was like, I get you probably mathematically have proven some aspect of that, but I just thought that was just hilarious. But for a bit of foreshadowing of like, it's coming, you just don't know how. So you get that little tension in your shoulders of like, what's the shoe that's going to drop? What's the thing that's going to set this in motion? And I think that's what the Malcolm effect was good at, of being like, it is that silence before the jump scare, that calm before the storm, that thing that lulls you into a false sense of security. So you're either lulled and it gets you, or you're on edge the whole time. So
Yeah.
As a literary device, I really liked it. And I do agree that it fits in with the way that chaos theory is described in this book. So I thought that was a good tie-in that Crichton did. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I think that's a good example of what I mentioned earlier about how Malcolm in the movie was portrayed as like pretty much an idiot who had made his name.
He was a smart idiot.
Yeah, he had made his name and then ridden that for the rest of his life, effectively.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't think about anything. He just goes, "Yeah, you're all doomed. See you next week."
Yeah, life finds a way, and and he's got like 2 lines.
Yeah, but in the book we get this, rational adult who's like, Yeah, just so you know, it's not going to get better. Like, you're not going to be able to gain control again. It's only going to get worse. You're totally fucked. This is something I've studied extensively. I've named a thing after it, after myself. Hashtag ego, still there. But um, I liked I liked it. I thought it was a good way to portray the chaos to come. As V.S.
Yeah.
Drake says, Malcolm took the role of the Oracle. He was the foreshadow agent where Crichton was like, it ain't gonna get better from here, folks.
Well, yeah, and I think it was also kind of a little nod to the fact that, like, as humans, we sometimes tend to downplay the dangers of what we're doing or what's going on around us. And it was just like, no, come back here. This is a scary situation that we need to get sorted out. And it provides both, yeah, like you said, like a source of tension, but also gives depth to Malcolm as a character, as a, like, I'm not just a smart guy. I am actually, like, concerned about what's going on here.
Yeah.
and and about what you people are doing. So I think it lent a little more gravitas to him as a character, even though, and while allowing him to still be arrogant.
Yeah. I think in the book you get a lot less arrogance from him, just because he's pretty much taken out of action after the T-Rex attack. He's practically done after that point.
And that happens early on in the movie, but I'm saying, like, the arrogance to some extent is a part of the character, and I'm glad that wasn't lost. It just is more subtle, and it plays together with, again, a more well-rounded character. And, he's not just like a specific archetype, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah. V.S. Drake says he loved the quote about how humans will not kill the planet. They'll just wipe themselves out and the Earth will still be around. I think that was something that was in both the book and movie. That was like a big moment where it was like, listen, man, how egotistical can you get? It's like, yeah, sure, you have the power to fuck shit up, but the world will go on after you destroy shit.
Yeah, he's like, and I actually love that was in the book. So I've actually had this conversation with people before, and I was just like, hell yeah, I wanted to high five them right there. Through the pages, I was just like, yeah, the world's not going anywhere short of, like, some kind of cosmic cataclysm that we couldn't possibly predict. The Earth's going to be around for a billion or 2 years before the sun swallows it. What exists on it can change, will change, but
even if we nuke the planet into oblivion, like, life will somehow survive in bacteria or something, and it will eventually evolve.
It just won't look anything like what it does now, and that's, I think that is, like, I like, though, that wasn't just used as an excuse to dismiss the gravity of what was going on, and I think that was a good tightrope walk that Crichton walks with these characters. Is like, oh yeah, you're not going. That's like the height of arrogance to think that you're going to destroy the world. But this is still a problem, like,
you're not going to destroy the world. You are going to destroy us.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is you need to focus on the human cost, which from the very beginning of the book is downplayed with the guy who gets bitten by the Procompsognathids, and or no, I think he was killed by the Velociraptor, and then the little girl who was maimed by the Compies, and the human cost gets swept under the rug because, like, oh yeah, of course, like, we're not going to ruin the Earth because the Earth's too big, like, or we are going to ruin the Earth and we're not going to do anything about it until it gets earth-shatteringly big. Like, it doesn't need to be paradigm shifting to need to be considered, you know. And I think that was a very smart way of like reframing the issue. And one of my favorite things about reading Michael Crichton in general is his I really liked that he brought it all together in such a way that it, like, again, this is a thriller, but I'm gonna make you think. And he does that with a lot of his books, and this one was one that really hit home for me too, is like, okay, so I'm not the only one thinking this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that in general that kind of brings up like one of the topics I wanted to quickly get into before we wrap things up, which was aside from the one that we just talked about, what was the philosophical, like, what did you think about the philosophical debate of DNA, like genetic engineering, that happened within this book? Like, did it make sense to you, or like, or was there something that you had a takeaway from?
There was a philosophical debate about DNA?
Genetic engineering specifically, and it's like what you're tapping into there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so like the thing that was popped up into my mind was this idea of like taking the use of some of genetic engineering to an extreme, like was used as a means of shining a light on how any scientific endeavor. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to reframe the question. What did you think about the philosophical debate specifically about science being violent and penetrative? The exact, like they use the genetic engineering as the example, but they specifically say science is by nature a like violent and penetrative act or whatever. Do you feel like that is something that this book like that resonated with you, or that this book did a good job of showing, or do you think that was like a bit disingenuous to the scientific method and community?
I mean, there's that quote from the movie. I've never been a big fan of the quote from the movie, which was like, you're so busy figuring out if you could, you didn't stop to think if you should.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really liked that though. Like, I mean, do the risky thing. Do it. Do it in a controlled environment, which they did. They did it on an island.
I brought this up specifically because, like, I thought this was another thing in this book that I was not exactly sure how well this was done, because anytime I saw science going off the rails, with the possible exception of Dr. Wu a little bit, it wasn't science that was pushing it. It was business. It was money grabbing, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, I thought it was a bit disingenuous to be like, yeah, science is like, has to be this like violent penetrative thing, because like you with accountability, science is a wonderful way of kind of learning about our world and like taking pieces of it and learning to understand it a little bit understand it a little bit. And I was kind of a little disheartened when like that was laid out there in that way, because like I get Crichton again with any of his books likes to be like careful about going too far, but that felt a little bit like he was just kind of crapping on it rather than being like, hey, you need accountability in the way that you do things, both in business and in science, which is true. It's just like a lot of it just kind of got dumped on science, and I thought that was a little
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, maybe there was a better way, but they attempted to make it safe as much as they could. They were, they obviously tried to seclude it to the island. They had a bunch of safeguards. They were trying to think ahead. They didn't think ahead far enough because shit went wrong. But at the end of the day, shit went wrong because of human error.
Yeah. But like some of that human error was kind of like the thing. Our focus wasn't on the thing that mattered necessarily. Some of it wasn't, like just enough to throw the chaos into that wrong. But like you said, most of that like is human error, and if you are, and they were working with something that they didn't know how to contain in a safe environment. They got about as close as you realistically can, but it wasn't contained. That was the whole point. Yeah. And yeah, so there are ways to do it, and that was probably one of like my two gripes with the book. That and a little bit of annoyingness by some of the like some of the tropiness of some of the kids, but that's pretty minimal. So with that though, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask before we start getting into final thoughts?
No, let's wrap it up.
All right. So my final thoughts are absolutely worth a read, even if you've seen the movie. Like, it reads differently enough from the movie, and you can get different things out of it. There are more well-rounded characters. There is still suspense and thrill. There's still a little humor. Don't go into it expecting it to be exactly the same, because it's not going to be. There's enough similar, but like for something that is so ubiquitously known as Jurassic Park and that world and like that cinematic world, this book I think stands alone enough that it is worth suggesting to anybody who likes sci-fi or thriller and is willing to maybe do a little thinking while they read.
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely not without its problems. Like, I feel like there might be a little bit of inherent sexism going on there.
Oh yeah,
in the book, but
that might be an 80s thing too.
But yeah, like book compared to movie, fuck man. I finished listening to the book Friday night, and I worked Friday night. I went home and I watched the movie, and I was like, this is trash. This movie is trash compared to the book. It has ruined the movie for me. I thought it was really good, though. In terms of dinosaur lore, I thought it was excellent. It really made you feel like this is something that could happen. It could happen. It was very exciting. The mystery aspect and the thriller aspect were really well done. I think I would recommend.
Oh, forgot to ask. This is the final thought. Favorite dinosaur to read about?
The Procomsignathus. I gotta say, those were kind of funny how they were like tiny little spunk monsters. I do like too the fucking Hammond at the end. Fucking bites the dust, man. Holy shit. Gets it from the compies. Did not see that coming. Holy fuck.
Well, yeah, I didn't either. There's a wild difference in that ending. Honestly, I liked the Dilophosaurus better, like in this book, because I'm just imagining like owl hooting and then just getting spit in the face.
With that, let's talk about what we're reading next. Next up on the docket, we already know for May 4th is a forest. Dog hair on my tongue. Sorry. A Forest of Vanity and Valor by A.P. Bestwick. Sorry, it's still there. After that, June 29th will be our next date, and that we're going to jump into The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. That's a epic story. The Wheel of Time series. Sorry, I was blanking. Wheel of Time series starts with The Eye of the World. Epic, written by Robert Jordan. Sadly, he did not live to finish. Rest in peace, Robert Jordan. You did a good job writing books, I'm sure. We'll find out.
And I know we're still working a bit on the date because it's all the way out in July and summers get busy with vacations and stuff. But on that note, July's theme is going to be vacation vibes, man. What is a book that sends you to a vacation place or that you would love to take with you on vacation to finally read? We'll have a list up, probably not as fast as usual just because we've got some time and we need to figure out the dates, but we'll have that up for you shortly. And hopefully you can join us for when the May the 4th be with you and the start of our big book summer.
Yeah, The Eye of the World is no joke. So
yeah, please get started on those early on. You do have 2 months, essentially, like the better part of 2 months to read it, but I would still recommend getting started early. I can't remember the exact hours on it, but I looked it up briefly when we first put that list out, and it was a lot.
Yeah. It's 700-ish pages, high 700s for pages, depending on edition.
So it's not Brando Sando, but it's still a bit.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Speaking of which, I'm going to tease it a little bit now, since we might as well talk about our side. We might as well talk about our side pieces. I have recently made my way through about half of Rhythm of War, and I am getting close to finishing up the series just in time for the latest release, which we do plan on celebrating here at TM's Table. So keep an eye out, come and join us in the later months, and we will keep you posted on how we intend to do that as the year rolls on.
Yeah. For my side pieces, I continued on with the Court of Thorns and Roses book series. I'm on book 4 now. I did drop physically reading them. I just since classes started back up, I just haven't had time. So. But audiobooks are always the saving grace, so I've been listening fervently.
So how spicy was the most recent one?
You know,
how many chili peppers are we talking here?
Storm, the book after A Forest of Vanity of Valor is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. It should be on your screen right now. I'm not sure what kind of media platform you're on, but it should be in the little comment section on the screen. But in terms of spiciness, you know, the first one was, I'd say, medium spice. The second one was maybe medium well spice. Third one was probably medium rare spice. fourth one I think is shaping up to be a rare spice. So kind of calming down on the spice level.
Settling into that nice groove where it's just like a little tingle.
Do I know how spice works? Yes, I do know how spice works.
How many Ahoville units is it? And yes, I know I mispronounced Scoville units. But
So if the first one was a jalapeno, fuck, I don't know what's less than a jalapeno.
Yeah, let's start with habanero, man, or like
habanero. Okay,
or cayenne. Start with cayenne. Like everyone knows cayenne, it gets put in there.
Hang on, let's spicy level of peppers.
I love that we're going into this just for the side piece. I need to know how hot your side piece is.
hang on, I got an image coming.
Sorry. I think that might be the line of the entire stream. Stormy says, "Doom told us about spice."
I
think you just won the stream, Stormy. Thank you for that.
I saw a TikTok about that where somebody walked up with the Dune book to the cashier and was like, "Hey, does this book have a lot of spice in it?" And the cashier was like, "Yeah, it's all about the spice." All right, so if habanero is kind of high up there, man, like, okay, so if the first book was a jalapeno, I'd say it's a jalapeno. The second one was probably a serrano, maybe a habanero. It definitely was no ghost pepper or dragon pepper, anything like that.
You know, at that point, you're just into like fanfic and and like erotica. So
yeah. Let's say Black Hungarian for the third book.
Wildly specific for those who don't know peppers, but I gotcha.
Maybe a banana pepper for the fourth so far. I'm not that far into the fourth though, so calm it down. I think you
lost VS Drake with that last one. But anyways, thank you everybody for joining us. Remember to check us out on dmstable.com and all of our socials and such. And if you really want to bug us more about spiciness levels or all other things nerdy, hit us up on the socials for the Discord. But with that, I think it's time to bid you all adieu, and we will see you next book.
Yeah. See you guys next time. Thanks for...